Hey guys, here's part two of my catch up with Pal. And in this one, we talk a little bit about like dating overseas, a little bit of like general advice. Pal is someone that gives a ton of advice in the Discord group, and the Discord group is just like part of the coaching group. You get to stay in the Discord group for life. Pal is one of the most like active people in there. He's like constantly giving everybody else advice. He's very, very generous with his time. He's given a lot to me too. There's been a lot of times he's emailed me and just said, "Hey Andy, he's someone that's in like research and internet research and like SEO and shit." And he'll go like, "Hey Andy, I researched a bunch of keywords for you. Try doing some topics on this. They might really help." So I love Powder Bits. He's such a great fucking human being. So if you sign up for the coaching program, not only do you get access to me and everybody else, but you get access to guys like Pal, people in the Discord group who genuinely, genuinely, genuinely care about everyone and are very knowledgeable and very generous with their time. And that's fucking amazing to see, to be honest. While I have you here, actually, before I do that, I'll tell you about Pal's story a little bit. So if you're not familiar, he joined my coaching program like a year and a half ago. In that time, he ended up having sex with like 10 women. And he was like so nonchalant about it too. Like he just kind of quietly had sex with 10 women and kind of just, there was no big fanfare about it. He's just like, yeah, it was fun. It was great. And he obviously enjoyed it, but like, he is one of those people that, and Ed is another one, who just kind of gets to work and just does the work. And they're kind of just over in the corner, like quietly achieving amazing, insane things, but without much of the suffering or the struggling. So more like the tortoise, whereas I can personally be a lot more like the hare. I can be very emotional. I'm very like, over the top sometimes. So yeah, I love working with guys like this who just kind of quietly sit there and take on everything that you're saying, and they just change their lives quietly. It's fucking amazing to see. So he had sex with 10 women. He opened up a lot. He became a lot more authentic. He made a ton of friends in the program. Like I said, he's in the Discord group, very generous with his time. He's a very amazing human being. And if you would like to follow in Pal's footsteps right now for the next, how long is it for? For the next 9 days, I had to think there a little bit. I'm offering 18 weeks of coaching instead of the usual 12. If you pay in full, there's a link in the description below. Go check that out. I hope you enjoy this interview. So this girl told me she went on a date with this guy, and he just starts talking about trains, as in like trains that go on train tracks. And, after like 20 minutes, she keeps trying to talk about other stuff, but he just won't shut the fuck up about trains, like different brands of trains, like the model numbers and like how many passengers, like just full on obsessive, like autistic about trains. And because she's, the average woman, she's too nice to say, "I don't want to talk about this," or "I'm leaving." And so she sat there for like 3 or 4 hours just listening to this conversation about trains. And like, he didn't ask her apparently a single question about herself or anything. It was just fucking trains for like 3 or 4 hours. And then
That's amazing.
finally at the end, like he says goodbye and shit. And then texts her afterwards and says like, "When are we going to hang out again? Like, when's the second date," kind of thing. And it was at that point she was like, I don't know. I don't think I want to, but yeah, man, fucking 3 or 4 hours of
Well,
train discussion. I love trains as much as the next guy. I don't know about 3 or 4 hours of trains. That's a lot of
I
trains.
have the perfect date for that guy. I know the first female train driver of Estonia.
There you go. Yeah,
Like
but
she
I'm
would
sure
just,
even she doesn't need to know all the fucking model numbers of all the trains and shit.
I mean, I remember she would like fucking go on, like she would work as a train driver, and then she would
Hmm.
like take the train home afterwards because she's like, I just really like trains.
Okay, maybe they are like, maybe we can set them up.
Yeah,
If you two are listening out there, shoot me an email and Pal and I will hook you two up, even though you probably live in
absolutely.
different countries. Yeah.
Yeah, but what I actually found interesting about that story is that she never fucking told him, right? So he's never gonna know. Like so much of
No,
this stuff
yeah,
could
and
just
most
be
chicks are
avoided.
too nice to say
Yeah.
anything. So he's just gonna think
Oh,
like, "Man, I'm crushing it on these dates, bro. Like just talking about trains. These girls are just capped. None of them are leaving, so they must like it. They sit there for 3 hours, like nodding their head and being polite. And there's that like awkward silence in the middle of the conversation. Like that silence has come up, and what she's done. Instead of just sitting there and letting that silence just exist so that he gets the hint, she's gone, "Wow, that's really interesting." And then he's gone, "Oh, thanks." And then he's just like continued with the conversation. Like, that she's like accidentally, to be nice, tried, like prompted him to just keep going. I don't believe anyone can have a 3 or 4 hour long conversation without a little bit of like, "Oh, that's really interesting. Wow. Oh, wow. Tell me more."
Yeah. So guys, don't do that. Ask the girl questions instead. That's what she wants
You can talk about
most of
trains
the
if
time.
you want to. Just understand that you're probably going to screen out lots of women. But there's probably a
Yeah.
guy out there who's like, look, I know what I want. I want a woman who's obsessed with trains. Maybe he's that guy. Maybe what he was doing is screening. I just did a video on my channel like today about screening. Maybe he was like, fuck, man, I got to find me a woman that's just obsessed with trains. And so I'm just going to talk for 3 or 4 hours. And if she can't put up with that, that's not the woman for me. I need a woman who's like by my side, like a train enthusiast like me.
Yeah, and if she says no to the second date, good. I don't want to go on a second date with her.
Yeah, why would I want a date with a stupid bitch who doesn't even like trains? Fucking bitch. Probably takes a car, stupid bitch. Plain bitch.
Absolutely.
On
Fuck
a
yeah.
completely different topic. I'm not sure what I want to ask you more about. Probably this. Okay. You mentioned that you're starting to feel like you're in a phase of less chasing women. Let's talk about that because I think for a lot of guys watching, what they're focused on right now is I just want to have sex. I just want to have sex. And the idea of moving past that at some point and moving on to other goals is probably insane to a lot of guys. So tell us about that.
I mean, I do still want to have sex, obviously, but
Sure,
I
but
feel that
it's
I
not the
want
main
to.
goal.
Right now, my main goals is around business, basically, and health. But I do want to. Yeah, it is a bit tricky for me because I have actually conflicts about it. Like I do want to like meet a girl and go deeper with her. Like, but I'll always like that, right? Like even
Mhm.
when I was in Colombia, if I meet one girl I like, then I'll continue seeing her, right?
Yeah, it's
But I
not
do feel like
mutually
the
incompatible
yeah,
with having lots of sex. Yeah.
exactly. But I do feel that the chase has gotten a little bit old, perhaps, right? Like that you keep going on a new fucking Tinder date like 3 times a week, and you have similar conversations and shit. And most of the girls, they like you don't really like them that much, but you're like, oh, I'm already there, so let's just like let me just do this. But I think that's also like I could probably change the strategy quite a lot, right? Just screen out some of those people, some of those
Yeah,
girls,
100%.
and don't like even bring them home or whatever. Like don't get into anything with them, right? Um, but it's just a desire thing. Like I'm tired of that a little bit, and it feels a lot nicer to go deeper with the girl and like get to know her properly. Like go on fucking trips together and like just do things to like more like coupley shit. Like I really enjoy doing those things.
Yeah,
Um,
man. I think a lot of people get into this thinking just sticking their penis in a vagina as many times as they can is like going to satisfy them forever. I did. Like at the start, I thought if my penis just goes in 10,000 women before I die, then I'll be happy. And just like you're saying, sex is wonderful. Sex with a new partner is incredible. It's really exciting in that. But at some point, you do, or at least everyone that I've seen does, start looking for the deeper things. Like, because I think you could go and have sex with 100 women in the next year or two. Like you could, if that was your mission, if I gave you the mission of like, look, man, you have to go and have sex 100 more times in the next year, you could do that. You could definitely do that. But at what point does that become unsatisfying if you're just doing something that's like pretty easy now? Like it really doesn't, it's not as hard as it used to be. And I think we as human beings, we love growth, we love progress, and going deeper with our intimate partners is definitely a big part of that. Like learning more about them, connecting, being vulnerable, like figuring out some of the things that might make someone want to stick around with us a little bit more, rather than sort of casual. Shallow isn't the right word, but I think you know what I mean, like casual relationships. So, yeah, I have never met a person that didn't have a lot of sex. Like everyone that I've met has a lot of sex and then goes, I think I want something a little bit deeper. Or I want to try this new chapter of my life where it's like we go a little bit deeper.
yeah, and it's also it's forced me to confront a little bit. What do I actually want,
Yeah,
right?
100%.
Um, and I know I definitely want something stable in the long term, or something deeper, for a better word than maybe stable.
Mm.
But at the same time, it's like what compromises am I willing to make? Like how does this fit into like the the plans that I have? Because now they have to combine with someone else's plans, maybe, right? And like where, like how much do I say? okay, I'm gonna only go for like the best, right?
Hmm.
What am I okay with compromising, right? So like some things with this person might be the very best, but maybe some other things are lacking. What am I okay with? Like, can I go all in with this person or not? Like, right? So then like different questions that this forces you to like think about.
Yeah, 100%. I like to think of it like every person is a character in an RPG, like a video game, and you have a set amount of you have different traits, like personality traits, and you only have a set amount of points that you can put in total. And so if you max out intelligence, there might be a little bit less in charisma, and it doesn't have to it's not completely binary, but we are kind of like balancing, or another way of saying that is human beings are sort of a balance of those different traits. And sometimes, we get so caught up in, I guess, the rat race of trying to find the perfect partner that we're just constantly like one upping. And you can do that forever. Like, there will always be someone better out there than the partner that you're with right now. Like, I truly believe that. I don't believe that any of us, maybe every now and then someone flukes it and finds literally the best partner on the entire planet for them. But there's just too many people that I think there will always be someone like, quote, better out there for you. And it's that sort of balance between how long, and not that everyone wants to settle down, but if your goal is to settle down, how long do I spend finding the best partner that I possibly can versus building with that person? And so my mindset has, or what I like to, I go on this side of things, find a partner who's really, really, really fucking amazing, and then build something absolutely even more amazing together. So find someone whose character traits are really fucking good, and then max their traits out and max your own traits out as well. Because, you and I are works in progress as well. And you can kind of flip that. And I see some people like aiming for the one or a perfect partner. And my question is, I flip that on them and say, are you perfect? And if the answer is, well, no, I'm still a work in progress, okay, find someone else who's pretty fucking amazing, but they're a work in progress and they're willing to improve that shit over time. For me, the most important thing has always been, is my partner, or any of my partners, any of the women that I'm seeing even casually, are they willing to improve? And like, how serious are they about improvement? And I much prefer that rather than a finished perfect product.
Yeah, that's like a trait that is non-negotiable for sure.
Yeah,
Like
100%.
there has to,
I don't know how you could be with someone who wasn't willing to improve. It'd be
yeah,
weird.
exactly. Like there has to be like a baseline of that, like
Yeah.
self-awareness and this like being on the same team mentality,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
that's a really cool way to look at it, like the time you spend finding versus building, and that's something I've thought
Yeah.
about because the girl I'm seeing now, right? She's a few years older than me, so I'm about to be 28. She's already 30, right? So that's one thing I've thought about. Okay, I'm still pretty fucking young, right? Like I still have years to like I can still go all in on this, and I'm like, there's still lots of time, right?
Hmm.
Or like you say, okay, because actually working on business is a hell of a lot easier if you're also not going on 5 dates a week, right?
Correct.
And I know what it took to find this girl, right? Because that's a numbers game,
Hmm.
right? And in the past year and a half, I've probably been on 100 dates or something. I don't know, something like that. So a shitload of dates. So it's like a 1 in 100 or something like that,
Hmm.
or 1 in 150 even. So, and even then, I know with my girlfriend before that, they have very similar character traits. But then there was like my last girlfriend was just like really neurotic, so that for that reason it could not work out, right? So they're like different. Like even if you find that person who's like the personality and the looks is like perfect, then there can be something else that's like, oh no,
Correct.
and that's
Yeah.
yeah, that's it. So it's yeah, it is really a numbers game. Like if you look at it, it does take time to find those. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And
my internal debate right now is like, okay, do I keep leveling up a bit more and they keep like looking a bit more, or do I fucking take it and build something amazing? Because I know either way will be great, right? But it's just yeah,
whenever someone's like struggling to decide to make that exact decision, what I say is like, it's almost like you're focusing on the wrong, it's not the wrong thing, but like, I would get you to focus more on the only thing that is consistent there. The only thing that is um, consistent between either of those two decisions is you. In other words, focus on yourself. And let's say you do decide to stick with this woman and build something, make sure you're building yourself first and foremost throughout that process, so that if you do stick together for 3 years or 5 years but then split up, it's like, hey, that 3 years and 5 years was amazing for me because I built myself, and it was amazing for her too because she built herself, which is why I say, find someone that's into self-improvement and has a growth mindset so that you can both be better off if you do end up splitting up. Or if you say, okay, I won't build something with her, I'll just keep exploring my options and building myself. It's like you're still focusing on building yourself. So it's almost like what I'm saying here is it doesn't really matter what you pick. Like I'm never, ever, ever thinking, it might sound like a weird thing to say because I've been with Imogen for 5 years or 5.5 years, but I'm never, ever, ever thinking like I want her to stick around. I love her to bits and I'm really fucking happy she's here. And I guess I do want her in my life, but if she was to tomorrow say, hey, I'm no longer here, I'd be like, sweet, the 5.5 years were really well spent. Now I'm just going to live the next 5.5 years. Like nothing changes. Do you know what I mean? It's like whether I'm with someone or I'm not, I'm still focused on my own goals, my own self improvement. And that person is almost like a nice little bonus. In the same way that if one of your friends stopped being your friend, your entire life wouldn't change. You just have to change a few of the variables and do different things in that, but you'd still be the exact same human being. You'd still be going to your job and all of that. But I think when it comes to romance, we often get so caught up in like attachment to the other person, and we use them to define like our goals and our purpose and our pathway and all of that. But I think it's just far easier to focus on yourself, and then either decision is correct because either way you're improving.
That's true. That's true. Like it's almost like I'm almost in a way doing it more for her because I know she has a clock, right? Like if we're talking about like kids and shit like that, and
If
she
wants
is
a
there,
kid's show, yeah.
right? And that's like, well, I know I want kids at some point, but I was thinking in like 10 years, 15 years, right? That's not possible for her. So there's like, that's why that's like the main thing I think. But yeah, I have to remind myself sometimes like, okay, she's her own person, like she can make the decision, and I
Yeah,
can just
100%.
focus on myself, right?
100%. I think, especially as men, and especially because you're an empathetic person, and most of us are, like, we're trying to make a decision for the other person because we're like, oh, I want to make the best decision for them. But I think one thing that's helped me is like, I will give people the most information I can. Like I'll try and be as honest and upfront and all of that. I'll try and mentor them and teach them as much as I have. But at the end of the day, whatever decision they want to make, like, that's the beautiful right decision for them. And if I was in their shoes and I had all the thoughts in my head that they have in theirs, I'd probably make the same decision. So there aren't really any like wrong or bad decisions. And if somebody tells you they regret something or whatever, well, that's just their story and they're choosing to suffer. But yeah, I don't think it's necessarily your mission in life to make other people's decisions perfectly for them.
Absolutely. I actually had a question for you. I was curious on your take on
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
Um, so I know you said, oh, if Imogen would split up and blah blah and these things that you quickly mentioned. No, I've sometimes heard, for example, Caleb Jones. He'll talk about like upgrading or downgrading a girl, right? And I
I know what
sometimes
you
think
mean. Yeah.
about that. I'm like, that would not be possible for me. Like, I don't think like a girl that I really
Yeah.
like, oh, I will just downgrade her to like a friend with benefits or something like that. Like, if you already have more of an emotional investment and stuff like that, I don't think that just goes away. At least not for me. So always when I heard that, then I think like, like, but how, like you can't just do that. Or, like, I can't do that. What's your take on that?
I mean, my philosophy is always going to be for you and everybody else listening, do whatever you want. Like, do what feels right to you. I don't think it's about a one size fits all approach. I don't think Caleb Jones says that anyway. He's a libertarian, but yeah, my philosophy is about the same issue. I've had this conversation with Imogen many times where I've said like, "Yo, if we ever broke up, do you think we'd be friends?" And she has said like, "Honestly, I don't think I want to." And I've thought about it and meditated on it for quite a long time, and I've come to the same sort of decision as you. I'm like, I don't think I would want to be because it would to me feel like part of what is very important to me is progress and improvement and growth. And maybe it's just a weird way of framing it, but I would feel like if I went from a relationship of 5.5 years down to like a casual relationship or a friendship, that would feel like the opposite of growth to me. And other people might disagree with that, and they'd be like, no, it's not going backwards, it's just a different chapter, it's like a different form of the relationship. Now it's a friendship, and I get that, but for me personally, no, it would feel like going backwards. So no, I don't think I'd ever be friends with someone. There are some exceptions to that. Like there's a girl that we're both dating right now that we've been seeing for about 10 months, and I've had conversations with her where I've said like, yeah, if you ever like get a hardcore serious boyfriend or something, I'd still be down to be your friend. So there are like some exceptions to that, but no, most of the time, once I get a lot of feelings for someone, I generally wouldn't downgrade them. But yeah, Caleb Jones is a lot more pragmatic than both of us, I think. I think he's a lot more like rational, and not that we're irrational, but I think he's a lot less emotional than the two of us.
And with that girl, do you feel like a really strong connection with her? Like how would you describe it?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. We've had some like very deep conversations in that. Yeah, I don't know why it's different with her. I think just because she's such a really good friend, I think it's that more than anything. I think
So
she's already
you would
a
already
really good friend.
describe yourself as friends in a
Yeah,
way.
100%. Yeah. And so it really, because we've had lots of times where we hang out as friends, whereas I don't ever hang out with Imogen as a friend.
Yeah.
So with this other girl, we have literally had friendship days where it's like we just go on a fucking road trip, and like there's no touching. You might hug and maybe kiss once or twice, but it's like literally hanging out as friends. So I think it's a lot easier to see how it could just be friendship. It would just be like every time we hang out is going to be exactly like that. So there wouldn't be the sex, but there'd be all the other stuff that we're already doing. Whereas with Imogen, it's almost like you would be rewriting things, and it's like, how do I translate what we're doing already into like a friendship? We've never hung out as friends. I don't even know what that would look like. And in my mind, I'm like, why would I want to be friends? Like I have friends. I would just go and have other friends. So yeah, that's why I say to everyone, do whatever you want to do, and do that depending on which person. I don't think you need a hard and fast rule of like, I will always stop hanging out with someone, or I will always be friends with an ex. It's like, no, just kind of see how you both feel depending on the relationship. And I don't think there's any right answers or wrong answers with this shit.
Yeah, I totally understand the vibe you're talking about. So I can totally understand the situation. Actually, that makes complete sense.
Yeah. If you're cool with it,
Hell yeah.
let's start wrapping up. Then I can go and get some early dinner. Are there any
We can absolutely do that.
Are there any shout outs or anything you would like to shout out at the end?
Not really. That's all good. We can wrap it up. It was
Let's
great
shout
talking to
out the universe and Colombia. Shout outs to Colombia.
Shout out the universe. Yeah, I didn't even tell half the things I could have told.
We'll save that for part 2.
Good stuff. We'll save it for part 2.
I appreciate you, brother. It's
Awesome,
been
man.
good catching up. It's been such a while, so I appreciate you coming back.
Appreciate you too, man. Keep doing what you're doing. It's always fucking amazing. I really admire what you've built with this whole community.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. You guys and girls deserve to live an amazing life like Pao and so many others have. Right now, I have an 18 weeks for the price of 12 deal. So if you sign up and pay in full only in the next 9 days, you will get 18 weeks. I want you guys and girls to live the lives that I know that you deserve, and that maybe you're sitting around thinking, I don't deserve this, or now's not the right time, or whatever other excuse might be in your head, or a limiting belief might be a kind of way of saying that. But no more waiting, right? No more excuses. No more holding back. It's time to change your life. Link in the description below.